What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. Week 2 of the CDL is starting tomorrow, and you know what time it is. Time to get those predictions in. Let's dive in, take a look at all the matches we have coming up next week. These are important matches for seeding to figure out who's going to get into what group. So let's dive in and see who's going to grab the dub this weekend. Let's dive in with match number 1. We've got Seattle versus the London Royal Ravens. You know, it's kind of a tricky one, honestly. London was kind of a surprise 2-0 team last week. Seattle really struggled. And I think for me with Seattle, and the reason I think I'm going to lean towards London in this series is just this 0-3 S&D record. I think they'll get better at this game, but I don't think they're going to sit on a goose egg for the entire season, nor do I think for the rest of Major 1. But at the moment, if I'm going based on form, and I know the meta obviously changed with the M4 getting GA'd, I think at the moment I'm going to kind of have to roll with London, maybe taking this one. Because of the S&D. So for this matchup, I'm actually going to go say this is going to go to a game 5, another heartbreak loss for Seattle. I think Seattle's actually probably a decent respawn team, will be a match for London. But again, S&D, at the moment, I got to pick London, but we'll see if that flips. All right, we got Florida Mutineers coming up against the Minnesota Rocker. Rocker obviously had a interesting week last week. We'll just say that with a little bit of controversy. I didn't think Florida played too bad. You know, I think they have some shortcomings in this series. Like, you take a look at the Florida stats, and I think as good as you know, they can potentially be in S&D and control, and you kind of see it, you know, in that Las Vegas series last week where they clutched it up in game 5. The hard point's like a real struggle, and I think Minnesota's probably a better S&D team on paper. So for me, I'm gonna go 3-1 for the Rocker here. I just again, the skill differential in a lot of these matchups in Florida is going to be tough. Minnesota, good S&D team. I think they go ahead and grab that dub. All right, next up we have LAG versus Subliners. And honestly, I have no idea who to pick for this one. I don't think either team is playing particularly well, so let's try something. All right, let's coin flip this because I don't know what to pick. All right, it's heads. So heads is on the left. So we're going to go ahead and say Subliners 3, LAG 1. Again, I'm just coin flipping because I legit, bro, I don't know how to predict this matchup. Candidly, after 1 week, I just don't know. All right, we got a matchup we've seen a lot over the last couple of years. Toronto versus FaZe. Now, historically, FaZe has pretty much dominated this matchup against Toronto, although Toronto has beaten them like in major finals. Obviously, that one series with Ben Vance went off, but Ben's no longer on the team. I think FaZe will probably benefit potentially a bit from the subs getting a little bit better. You know, Abizi actually played really good last week, and Simp was sort of up and down. If Chris is kind of playing better, I just see FaZe as being a little bit more organized in Toronto. I can see this matchup being closer down the line, but for now, I think I'm going to give FaZe the 3-1. I think they've just probably got more prep work, more organization than Toronto does. I think Toronto's skill could definitely shine through, and the series could get interesting, but I got FaZe taking at least right now. All right, we got FaZe versus Vegas, and I could break this one down for a minute, guys. We can talk about this, but candidly, I think this is a 3-0. It's no disrespect to the Vegas boys, but I just don't see them being class in terms of slaying in the respawns. We know Vegas' struggles in control, so the real path to this is going to need to be, you know, taking a hard point at both S&Ds, and I just don't see them getting that done. So I'm going a FaZe 3-0. We got OPTIC versus the London Royal Ravens. Again, London played really good. I have a predictor for them to go up 3-0, but I like OPTIC's opportunity in this series. I think they're going to give London a lot of problems in the respawns. There's just an unpredictability factor about OPTIC and the dynamic plays they make. I think this one could be actually a pretty exciting series, low-key. I'm trying to decide if I wanted to make it a 3-1 for OPTIC or a 3-2. I think we're going to go ahead and do a 3-1. With OPTIC taking this one. Next up, we got the Subliners versus the Breach. And honestly, you know, I think Boston probably take this, but let's dive in on their stats and explain why. I think for me, when we look at Boston, you know, this season, and we talk a little about last year, I think it starts with being a really solid and particularly good top 3 S&D team. Like, I think when we get to this level and the level that Boston wants to get to of being a top 3, top 4 team, you know that respawns are going to kind of wash themselves out and it's going to become situational, especially by the end of the season. You need to be good at S&D because you're going to need to clutch up in those game 2s and go up through 2-0 when you can win that first map, and you need to close out series when it goes to game 5. And I thought last week watching Boston play, especially on that Fortress S&D against FaZe, and again on big map against Seattle, I thought they looked good. Now we have to see what they do on maps other than Fortress, but I think I like the trend for Boston in terms of having the S&D edge in this matchup against a New York team that, you know, did not play good last week, maybe the most disappointing team. So as much as I like the city of New York, and I hate seeing, you know, Kinley as a New York Yankees fan, seeing Boston beat New York in any match, I kind of need to give this to Boston. And unfortunately, I think it is going to be a 3-0. Next up, Florida versus LA Thieves. And Just like the Rocker matchup, Thieves have been playing really, really good. They're another team that's like very good at S&D, which is a huge problem for Florida. Very much limits their win connections. I think, unfortunately, I got to give this one a 3-0. I'm predicting a lot of 3-0s on day 2, so looks like Saturday might be a fast one. I'm hoping it is, by the way, because, there's that big golf match Saturday night, which I'm trying to watch between Tiger and Rory and JT and Spieth. But anyway, not talking about golf. I just think the talent gap is going to be too much here for Florida, and unfortunately, they're going to drop this one. All right, we get to day 3. We'll start to get a better sense of seeding as we get to these matches, and we got a banger to start. The Minnesota Rocker versus the Vegas Legion. I just think that this is another one that the Legion are just going to toss in Game 5. I think actually, low-key, like Vegas can probably win a respawn off of Minnesota just on some, crazy Clayton Don thing. This Minnesota team is just too much disciplined, I think, to lose a Game 5. And, I like the Vegas team. I like the progress they made. They've been competitive, but I just don't see them, winning this series. It's probably one that they have to win. If you look at how they went 0-2 last week and they have to play FaZe, I just think that Minnesota's going to be a must win. So they're going to turn up, but I just can't pick them in this one, guys. All right, we got Seattle versus Toronto. And I think for Toronto, this is going to be a big one to try and be 2-2 going into Major 1. And then for Seattle, actually, if they don't win this one, and I have them predicting losing to London, they might be 0-4. And unfortunately for the Seattle boys, this is one where Toronto will match them in respawn prowess. Again, we can't really dive into specific maps yet. I'm going to probably be able to do more of a map-oriented focus when we talk about Major 1 matchups next week, because a lot of teams like Boston has only played one S&D map. Like, how am I supposed to, I think this Toronto team can match them well in the respawns, and then I think it comes down to sort of the S&D Game 5, and unfortunately for Seattle, I just can't trust them in those Game 5s right now, so they're going to lose another heartbreaker here. And I'm just hoping for Seattle, for me, like I'm hoping to be wrong, because I want them to be better in search, but the start they had in S&D week 1 is kind of giving me a little bit of hesitation in picking them in these situations this week. And then we got probably the most sought after, most hype match of the week. We've got the Los Angeles Thieves facing up against OPTIC Texas. This will probably be on a Denver server. So that'll be interesting. There'll be a bunch of back and forth as always. I think, for me, again, just like with the series prior, this one might come down to S&D. And I think if I have to pick a team that I trust more in search, at least at the moment, it's probably Los Angeles Thieves. Now, I think OPTIC's very good. And if they take this win, if you're OPTIC, I think it's a big statement win for them. And they're going to very much catapult themselves up. I think a lot of rankings and be, a solid top 3. I have them top 3 right now, but I got a lot of ridicule in my YouTube comments, people thinking they're not so good. I think they can maybe get the statement win, but if I have to kind of make a prediction now based on sort of the knowledge I have and how last weekend went, and also the fact that Shotzzy has COVID, so I don't know how much practice they got this week. I got to pick Thieves in this one, unfortunately. But I would love to see his rematch the week after. So Major 1, if we can see it, let's get that done. And finally, we got a fun one. Boston Breach versus the Los Angeles Gorillas. I might just pick this one as an upset just for, just to kind of toss them on the board. Like, I like how Boston, again, started the season. But LAG is one of those weird teams that, like, they could just show up and just fry. And so I'm actually just going to rando toss out a 3-1 because I want to put a curveball out here. I don't know if this one's going to hit. It probably won't, but I need to at least toss 1-1 out here and see if we can make it happen. So those are my predictions. We make for some spicy stuff. A couple of teams going 0-4 into the Major would be very interesting. We'll break this down, obviously, next week after all the stuff, and we'll dive in. So, yeah, these are my predictions. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you think I nailed a few of these? Think I missed? Let me know. Like, if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more. We'll be doing shorts content Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, recapping all the action from the matches. On Monday, I'll break down the results, takeaways, and we'll start talking about the group stage. We'll have some challengers, kind of preview stuff going out in the middle of the week. Starting on Thursday, we'll be back into sort of probably more short stuff just because I'm going to be on the road. It's going to be hard for me to do kind of longer content, but we'll see. I'm working with my editor on that plan. As always, guys, we'll see you in the next video. Thank you all so much.